Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over the water to Denmark once again, hence why I'm wearing red and white. But for this one we are going to look at another new brewery, and these guys are one of the many Danish ghost breweries or phantom breweries or gypsy breweries, however you want to term them. So for this one we are going to go to Ghost Brewing and we're having a taste of the Razor Blade, which is a black Imperial IPA. It comes in at 10%, so it's a bit of a beast, but it should be really nice. These guys have a very good reputation, and this beer, as far as I can gather, has been received very well so far. This one was released, I think, in March or April of 2016, along with another one called Green Oxygen, which is an IPA. They don't have a regular range, these guys, so they release new beers every couple of months, so pretty cool in that regard. And of course that's the kind of freedom you can expect when you've got one of these kind of gypsy breweries. So should be a very interesting first review from Ghost Brewing. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll just tell you a little bit about the brewery. It will be very short for this one. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that I'll do from Ghost Brewing. This is the very first time I'm trying one of their beers, of course. All the usual social media is down there, and if you do want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. To those of you watching in Denmark as well, I do apologise for any bad Danish pronunciations, but please do get in touch and let me know some of the other Danish beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Ghost Brewing. So these guys are a contract brewery or a gypsy brewery or a phantom brewery, however you want to describe them, and they're based in Copenhagen, the capital city on the island of Sjælland in Denmark. But the brewery was founded by Morten Christoffersen and Bo Høyer, who were also involved in Breugen's Ølbar, which opened and shut very quickly actually, and they were also involved in Danish Beer House, which is an import company that brought many of the American and Canadian craft beers over to Denmark from North America. So Morten and Bo apparently became interested in craft beer back in 2004 when they started this business of importing American and Canadian craft beers through the Danish Beer House for the first time. And these guys were really quite instrumental in kind of starting up the craft beer scene, I guess, in Copenhagen. From what I gather, it was really the kind of imports of American craft beer that's made a lot of people interested in home brewing, and that's where a lot of these kind of really good breweries in Copenhagen have come from. Copenhagen, people who live there are very spoiled when it comes to craft beer. They're very lucky, in fact. But since these guys are a contract brewery, they brew most of their beer at other breweries around the Copenhagen area, but they do brew abroad as well. This beer, in fact, was brewed at Brewfest in Italy. So yeah, that's your little bit about the company. There wasn't too much information available on these guys, so if someone has an article or something that tells me a little bit more about the owners or things like that, please do post it in the comment section below. It'll be interesting to look at that for my next review, but I hope that satisfied you for the moment. So now we can try this beer. So as I told you at the start of the video, this one is a 10% Imperial Black IPA. It's got a pretty cool name, and I have to admit I do like the artwork for this one. From what I can see, the artwork on all of the Ghost Brewing beers is pretty similar, so I'll just let you have a little look at that before we open it up. But as I said, this beer I believe was released in March or April 2016. I'm filming this one for you on the 14th of April. You'll see it a little bit later than that, of course. And I bought this one at Mikeller and Friends in Copenhagen, and they did have the Green Oxygen too, but I didn't realise that these beers were kind of one-offs, or I would have bought Green Oxygen as well. But yeah, you can see it's very nicely presented. Tells you on the side it only contains water, malt, wheat, hops and yeast, so looks very nice. Cool artwork on this one. So without further ado, I guess we can get this guy open and get on with the tasting. So it should be really nice, and this one did come highly recommended from the guys at the Mikeller and Friends bottle shop, so we'll see how we get on with this beer. And it's very rare that you'll find a beer from these craft breweries in Denmark that will disappoint you. There's some really awesome stuff over there. I just wish we could get more of it in Sweden actually, and that I didn't have to go to Copenhagen all the time to get it. But that said, Copenhagen is a pretty beautiful city, so it's always cool to take a little break and go over there. So if you do want to go to Scandinavia and you like your beer, Copenhagen is definitely a good place to go. So as you can see, this beer has poured exactly how you would expect from a black IPA. They said in the description of this one that it was supposed to be a cross between an Imperial Stout and a double IPA, so hence black IPA for this one. I've tried a couple of these beers and they are really nice. Black salts and body malts from Toul was one that springs to mind. As you can see, a nice finger of a frothy, kind of creamy beige tan head on this one. If I hold it up to the light, it's definitely ebony rosewood colour. There is a little bit of a kind of ruby edge to it there. But overall it looks very nice. There's actually no real carbonation visible on this one, just one or two tiny little bubbles going up towards the bottom of that head there. The beer is very dark, so you're not getting much of a transparency from it at all, but it looks very, very nice. And when you're pouring this one, you can smell some of these nice fruity hops off this one. You can even just smell that juicy character from it. So let's have a closer look at the aroma of this one. Oh yeah, there's definitely a nice juicy kind of citrusy hop character to this one. I want to say it's quite tropical actually. There is maybe a little bit of orange in there, but that's quite subtle. For me, this one is more about the kind of juicy tropical fruits in this one. Yeah, you sugar it up a little bit more. Yeah, when you sugar it up, you start to get the more malty side of things coming out. There's some chocolate in there, maybe a little bit of woody and nutty character, a little bit of, you can pick up some of that kind of black malt that you would expect from the stout. Roasted, kind of toasted caramel and brown sugars as well coming out. But it's quite a big blend. It smells quite bready, and then you've just got this chocolate, the caramel, slightly nutty infusion mixing in. Definitely a little bit of coffee too, but when you let it settle, it's definitely leaning more towards the hoppy side of things. And like I say, it comes across as quite juicy. It's quite a kind of juicy tropical fruit aroma. I want to say that there's a little bit of, it's a kind of juicy, slightly grapefruitish aroma. It doesn't quite have the pungent, oily grapefruit aroma though. There's maybe a little bit of, not quite mango, not quite peach either. It doesn't quite have the aroma of peach. But to me, it maybe does lean a bit more towards the citrus. There maybe is just a little bit of a kind of passion fruity note in there as well. But it's really not quite, it's not such an oily one. It does lean more towards the citrusy side of things, and the tropical side of it is also juicy. You can pick up just a little bit of a kind of grassy, almost kind of floral hop coming out of this too. But that's quite subtle. The hoppy side of the aroma is definitely more along the lines of a juicy tropical fruit. So just take in this aroma a little bit for yourself and see how you get on. But yeah, let's give this beer a try. It does smell absolutely beautiful, so make sure you have a look at the aroma for yourself properly before you drink it. But we'll give this beer a try now. So this one is the Razorblade, an Imperial Black IPA from Ghost Brewing, one of the many gypsy brewers over in Copenhagen in Denmark. Skål! Oh yeah, that's quite an interesting one. It actually, when you think about the aroma of this one, on the initial taste, it does come over as being a bit darker than you would expect. I was expecting this one to be just a little bit more hoppy, but I'm sure the flavour will progress more. As I always say with these kind of beers, sugar the beer around your palate a little bit, and just let your whole mouth adjust to this before you start to dissect the flavour too much. But what is immediately apparent with this beer, it's a damn good beer. The quality of the brewing here is really, really good, and the strength of the flavours is really nice too. Oh yeah, the juicy hoppy character does start to come out just a little bit later, so be prepared for that. When you first take this beer in, the roasted part of the malt base just takes over the middle of your tongue, but then you start to get the more kind of complex notes coming out of it. You start to get the fruitiness just once your palate adjusts, so just pay attention to how this one progresses. It's really nicely done. That's a good beer. No two doubts about that. So in the middle of your palate, you've got a kind of bready malt base. It just goes right across the middle of the tongue. Underneath that, you can pick up a little bit of sweet caramel, a little bit toasted too, but for me, it's really the kind of roasted black malts, and a little bit, it's not quite a coffee-ish aroma, or coffee flavour I should say. It's more of a very roasted, slightly ashy black malt, and that just sits right in the middle of the tongue for me on this one. I've just got this really kind of dry centre in the middle of the tongue, and that's where this roasted black malty character is sitting. But that's really nice. In fairness, I'm saying it's quite dry in the middle of the palate, but again, that's something that seems to smoothen out a little bit as your mouth adjusts. So that's one thing when it comes to drinking black IPAs. I tend to find that they can be very extreme on the first taste, but then they just smooth out and mellow a little bit. But this one, you know, this is a top quality beer. There's no two doubts about that. I'll need to try some more of the Ghost Brewing stuff in the fairly near future. But yeah, the hoppy character is really nice too. The thing that I always find interesting about the black IPAs, a lot of them don't have the earthy character in the back corners of the palate. You can pick it up in this one. You get a little tiny bit of earthy hop. You can feel the smoothness of that in the very back corners of your palate. But as you come further forward, you've got more kind of floral aromaticity, and it's a bit dry around the front side of things. And as you progress into the aftertaste, you can feel the slightly earthy character just spreading out. But I've had some black IPAs before that don't quite have that earthy character, and the earthiness in these beers does build a really good bridge between the really kind of dark and roasted elements of the malt base and the hoppy side of things. The balance of the flavours in this beer is really quite good, and that becomes apparent very quickly with this one. But the front part of the palate on this beer for me is all about the fruits. There is a little bit of floral aromaticity, not really a resinous character in this one, more kind of floral and aromatic, and around the front curve of the palate it's very smooth. The juicy character, of course, is coming from these esters with the fruit. So just behind that front curve of the tongue, you get this little oily bubble in there, and that's where all of these fruity flavours are coming out. There's a nice juicy mix. It's a good bit of citrus in there, and it's mixing with a nice kind of grapefruit character. It's quite smooth and juicy rather than being that kind of pungent, oily grapefruit flavour that comes out quite a lot actually. For me, I wonder if there's a bit of citra hop in here as well, because you're getting the more juicy and slightly more mellow notes from the tropical side of things. It does lean more towards that juicy character rather than the quite oily and quite pungent things, and that's when you start to get notes like mangoes and papayas and stuff, and I am getting a little bit of that kind of smoother, more juicy tropical flavour that you associate with the citra hop. I do wonder if there's some citra in here. And there is a little bit of a citrusy character too, but for me, the citrus side of things is a little bit more subdued. This one is more about these juicy tropical fruits, so that really makes me wonder if there's some citra hop in here. I may of course be wrong about that. There could be some Simcoe in here too, but as the flavour progresses, as you just move and the fruits kind of die away, you can pick up a little bit more of that slightly oily, grapefruity character, and it is very nice. I mean, the flavours in this beer blend together really well. Like I said, the earthy hop character builds a good bridge between the dark and quite roasted black malt side of the malt base there, and the juicy hop character complements it quite well. You can detect some of the caramel sweetness in there, but for me the malt side of things is dominated by that black malt ashy character. But this overall, this beer is very nice, and the flavours do blend together quite well. You wouldn't think it's 10% either. You do get a little bit of alcohol warmth after you take a few sips, but in terms of the flavour, it doesn't taste boozy at all. It's very nicely done. So just to describe that mouthfeel a little bit more in depth, I would say this beer is mid-bodied, maybe pushing the full-bodied character actually. I would say it's quite oily as well, but there's a nice smoothness to the carbonation. It's very nicely done. Some nice juicy fruity character, like I said. There is a little bit of dryness from the hops, but that's well balanced from the kind of sweet juicy fruit character, and the malt base does have a little bit of sweetness, but for me it really leans more towards these kind of dark roasted and quite dry and bitter characters that you associate with black malts and roasted malts. It's really nicely done, and it's quite unusual. I do enjoy the black IPA style, so it's always cool to review some new ones. And at 10%, the alcohol warmth is quite subdued on this one, but after a while you do start to feel it. But on the basis of this beer, I have to say, if you haven't tried any Ghost Brewing ones, you might want to give these guys a go. This is a pretty damn awesome beer, and I'll definitely be reviewing more of these in the near future. So as I said, this one was released in March or April of 2016. It's a very new beer at the time that I'm filming this one, and it was released alongside the Green Oxygen IPA. These guys, I don't think, have a regular range of beers. I think it alternates and they produce a lot of new ones. So as it comes out, just try the new stuff, and I'm sure on the basis of this beer, I'm sure that their other beers are pretty damn awesome too. So make sure you check out Ghost Brewing from Copenhagen in Denmark. This has been an awesome one. If you can get a hold of the Razor Blade beer, I highly recommend you do. If you like black salt, black malts and body salts from Toil, I'm sure you'll enjoy this one too. This is a damn awesome black IPA, so yeah, make sure you check it out. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews, I thank you for watching. Please let me know in the comment section below your own thoughts on this beer. Do let me know what your favourite beers from this brewery have been as well. But until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I hope you've enjoyed this review, but make sure you go and check out some of the Ghost Brewing beers. Really cool to review another one of these kind of gypsy breweries from Denmark. So until the next time, go and try some of their beers, check out my social media, and do check out the other Danish beer reviews on the channel. Let me know some of the other Danish beers and breweries you guys would like to see reviewed too. Until next time, Slange just now. Skål.